0.5% of the United States population is vegan, but you wouldn't know that going to the supermarket. There are so many plant-based options available that you might be thinking that, I don't know, 30-40% of the population is vegan. Somehow the vegan movement made it into the mainstream consciousness, and even the omnivore diet got affected by it. Let me tell you how. For those of you that are new to this channel, I've been on the carnivore diet for over 3 years, and I've been a carnivore diet coach for the last 1.5 years. Wow, it's been so long already. I believe carnivore diet is the way to go for me, given my history of autoimmunity, and I really feel great. I've added some fruit and some honey for the duration of pregnancy and for the time that I'm breastfeeding, but as soon as I'm done with nursing, I am going back to pure carnivore, and I will probably go back for the period of time to be on the PKD protocol. That said, I do believe you can have a healthy omnivore diet provided you don't adapt those plant-based, shall we call them, myths? Let's start with the one that drives me crazy the most. The plant milks. They're not milks. There are white colored plant beverages mass-produced in factory settings. The real milk comes from mammals that produce them to feed and grow their offspring into healthy adults. That is real milk, and that is the only thing that should be called milk. And yet I will hear parents in the playground talking about their lactose intolerant toddler that needs to be substituted with a different types of milk, and the go-to solution is almond milk or soy milk. That shouldn't be even the conversation. You should be thinking about substituting milk from A1 to A2, maybe raw milk directly from the farm, maybe sheep's or goat's milk, but not almond and not soy, because they're not milks and they don't have anything in common with real milks as far as nutrition goes. We shouldn't be giving it to the toddlers, but because of all this plant-based thing that plants are somehow miraculous in their nutrition, parents actually consider that as a viable option for their children. Let's talk about the second myth of brown rice being somehow healthier than the white rice, because the whole grains slow down the release of sugars into our blood, therefore they are healthier, and then also this precious fiber that will get the stuff moving through your gut. Right? Makes sense on the surface, except that I can tell you this right now, that my grandparents would go for the white rice without hesitation because it is easier on your gut. This unrefined whole grains are actually destroying your gut, and a lot of people are sensitive to the indigestible fiber. So our ancestors would do everything to strip the grains from the fiber and get to the actual starch. How they would slow down the absorption of the sugar into the blood would be by adding saturated fats, things like butter. And while we are talking about saturated animal fats, let's talk about fats some more. Fats don't equal oils. Fats come from animals, things like lard, tallow, duck fat, butter. But oils are cottonseed oil, canola, soy, sunflower, olive oil, and coconut oil, and they're not interchangeable. They do different things in our bodies. And let me tell you this, saturated animal fats have been valued all over the world by traditional societies. Nobody would even know how to obtain a cottonseed oil if it wasn't for advanced factory procedures to get the oil into the bottle and to look the way it looks on the store shelf. So if you have to deep fry something, let's say French fries, make them in lard and tallow. That's how my parents did it for us when we were children. Don't use sunflower or canola oils or cottonseed oils. This is a metabolic disaster. It is not like that if you fry your potatoes in lard or tallow. Another vegan practice that made it into mainstream diet is changing dairy for plant-based options, things like coconut yogurt, plant-based cheeses, plant milks. Let me tell you this, they do not do the same thing as dairy does for your gut. Traditionally, we add dairy to plants to reduce their oxalate content. So let's talk about black tea. It is full of oxalates, but if you add real milk to it, calcium in it will bind to the oxalates and it will remove it from your body. Let's talk about the Greek filo pie that has spinach in it and cheese. So the calcium in cheese will bind to the oxalates in spinach and remove it from your body, and whatever other nutrients that are available, your body will safely absorb. Same way with oatmeal. If you cook it with cow's milk, you will reduce the amount of anti-nutrients in it and make the whatever starch is available in it easier for your body to absorb. But if you replace it with, let's say, almond milk, if you replace it with coconut milk, you don't get these benefits. In fact, you are adding more oxalates and more anti-nutrients that are present in those plant milks. It's not a good substitute and definitely isn't healthy. Choosing of raw vegetables over cooked vegetables is yet another vegan practice that somehow made it into the mainstream diet. It's not a good one. Until recently, we were cooking vegetables to reduce the amount of anti-nutrients in them and get to the absorbable, digestible starch. But somehow now I go to the corporate events and I will see a vegetable platter and there will be raw broccoli on it, and I actually talked to somebody that was eating raw broccoli dipped in a ranch sauce, telling me about her thyroid problems. I wonder why. And what about the leafy greens, the superfoods of the nutrition, those precious phytonutrients that nobody can exactly define what they do in our body? But nonetheless, if you go to New York City, walk down the streets, there will be plenty juice stores where you can get a fresh juice from kale, celery, maybe some cucumber, maybe some green apple. Even if you add lots of fruit to that juice, it will still taste disgusting. I know, because I tried. I will never come close to any of these concoctions. This is a oxalate bomb, and there is zero milk or any other dairy to bind to those oxalates. I'm not drinking it. My grandparents and my parents had a vegetable garden, but what we grew there was mostly potatoes and all kind of root vegetables. There was no kale, spinaches, or any other leafy greens. They were just not edible to us. If I showed up at my grandparents with a fresh kale, they would feed it to the horses, or if I tell them about the lettuce, they would think I'm trying to feed the rabbits. The only kind of vegetables that they would be interested in eating would be root vegetables, and they would have to be well cooked or fermented. Avoiding of red meat is yet another vegan idea that made it into the mainstream diet, and usually it is adopted by people that would like to be vegan but they cannot quite bring themselves to being vegan, so they avoid red meat and they settle for the chicken and fish, thinking that it is actually better for you. It would be the best if they didn't have to eat meat at all, but since they cannot be quite vegan, they will just eat chicken or fish. This is not a good choice. If you can choose between red meat and chicken or fish, always go for red meat. It is the most nutritious form of meat, and I've been doing it for the last 3 years, and majority of the meat I'm eating is red meat, and I thrive on it. Ask any other carnivore, they'll tell you the same thing. I am not saying everybody has to be carnivore, although most people's health would benefit. Maybe going cyclically through carnivore diet, things like being carnivore through fall and winter and beginnings of spring, and then just add some fruit for the late spring and summer would be ideal for human nutrition. That is what I am intending to do once I stop nursing. But yeah, even if you are on the omnivore diet, if you can get rid of these unhealthy practices, you'll be a lot better off, and your diet and your health will be a lot better. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!